the streets of Adelaide. This was a nasty crash earlier today for Andrew McPherson in the Porsche, going left at the centre chicane after rifling it off the curbs hard into the fence. It brought out a red flag at the end of the session, and the news is they've been scrambling to get their spare car ready to get set for qualifying. Alex Davidson's fresh out of his Porsche and Carrera Cup and ready to join me in the commentary box. That was a nasty shunt down there at the centre chicane this morning.
Yeah, it's the worst thing you could do in practice one, and the thing none of us want to do, but a great position to be in to have a spare car in the truck.
The car that's actually stalled on the grid right now, Tony Walls in the McLaren, also got caught up in a centre chicane accident last year, the Sunday crash where we saw a Ferrari go head on into the fence and bounce out in front of the racetrack, in front of the whole field. This is the first of 2 qualifying sessions, and pretty much the cars that have 2 drivers, which is most of the cars here this weekend. You don't have to have a co-driver, but if you do, you have to nominate one driver to drive this session, another driver to drive in the second session, and then essentially qualifying is set from the fastest time in either of the 2 sessions.
Yeah, so, yeah, it is very simple. It's refreshingly simple, but great that they get both drivers to drive, because it is an endurance style event, and comes down to the best team who can win. But we can see all these guys out there jockeying for position. There's the beautiful Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 that Craig Baird and Scotty Taylor are running for the first time this weekend. Bairdo, he was second in the first session, and only did, I should say Bairdo and Scotty Taylor were second. Bairdo only did 3 laps in the car, the only time he's ever driven it. So second outright in that session was a damn good result.
Speaking of new cars, that's this one.
Steve Richards in the new BMW M6. And what a beautiful looking race car. I mean, honestly, all of these current spec GT3 cars are some of the best race cars you see on racetracks anywhere. And the traditional BMW, Works BMW livery looks awesome. So Steve's, I think they had a brief test, but first competitive outing, which is in what's been quite an exciting build-up for the Steve Richards Motorsport BMW team.
So he's racing against you in Carrera Cup, and then he's come across now to race Car 100 as BMW debuts the M6 into Australia, into Australian motorsport, with this wild entry in the hands of Stephen Richards. It's a customer team, BMW driving experience on the doors. Techno Autosports, after winning Bathurst this year, the 12-hour, and all their success in V8 supercars, have made the move over to be part of the Australian GT Championship with no fewer than 3 McLaren 650S. That is just crazy how good their entry list is this weekend. It was meant to be 27 cars, it was going to be 26 cars after a testing crash at Winton for Ricky Capo. It now stands at 27 as the final number. This is our first look in Australia at the SLS AMG. This particular car was the one that was debuted at Bathurst when they took the covers off it. It didn't do any laps at Bathurst at the 12-hour. That was not around at the championship, and they didn't meet the homologation rules for Bathurst. So it debuts here in the streets of Adelaide, and we've got 4 of these bad boys in the country.
Yeah, it's been, they've proved to be a very, very popular car to choose in the Australian GT Championship.
Oh, I get nervous seeing a replay this early in a session.
Replay already.
It's Rod Salmon.
And the finger out the window.
Oh my goodness.
He's just pointing to the sky, saying, yep, it's nice and clear and there's going to be no rain today, I think. But
that was the Andrew Taplin, Dean Panto entry. That should be Andrew Taplin in the car. I don't think Dino could reach the windows, actually, from inside the driver's seat, so...
Bit of aggro early in the session. At this stage in the session, you can still see the guys warming their tyres up, warming their brakes up. All the GT tyres, and I'm assuming they're the same tyres that we were running on at Bathurst a few weeks ago. They're quite a hard tyre. They take quite a few laps, a lot of running to actually get up to temperature.
Luffy's watching down there, part of the McElrea racing team.
Quite a very experienced driver in Australian GT, and was driving in this car. Good timing there.
Yep.
Driving in this car at the Bathurst 12-hour, and ultimately had a wee bingle in the first end of the race in it.
Christopher Mees was sitting next to him. That's the reigning Australian GT champion.
Well, he's unbelievable, because he's driving
in 2 places
in
at once.
5th and also in the garage. So that's a very good effort. But clearly, it's I think Jeff Emery in the car.
Yeah, so he's sharing with 5-time Commodore Cup champ Jeff Emery in that entry this year. He's done a lot of Dunlop series running. Now, the rule is that driver A has to run in this session. Christopher Mees is listed as being driver A, so clearly the rule book's lasted Well, we've won practice session in the Australian GT Championship, and we've decided to just let whoever go out and have a pedal. It makes sense because you'd want your faster driver in the car at 6 p.m. tonight when the last qualifying session's on, because the track conditions should be cooler and better.
Exactly, and I believe that you can choose which driver does which session. Obviously, the other driver has to do the alternate session. Now, I'm trying to work out who we're on board with here, but it's a McLaren anyway. 61 is Nathan Antunes, so also a very experienced Australian GT driver.
Oh, how do you get a lap in with this kind of traffic?
Well, with 26 cars, it's always going to be difficult. But Antunes, very experienced, very successful in Australian GT, but we normally see him driving an Audi R8. So first Australian GT round in the McLaren this weekend for Techno Autosports, and we can expect him to be pretty competitive. Currently 6th in this session, but we're going to see the lap times really drop over the next handful of laps. They're currently, Andrew Taplin currently quickest on a 1 minute 23.6, but only done 3 laps on the track. The tyres will only just be starting to work properly now.
Clark Quinn driving with his father Tony Quinn here this weekend, and he works his way back behind the pit complex. Clark, a former champion in this category on a couple of occasions. Also won every race here in this category over a couple of years. Just clean swept back-to-back years.
Very experienced driver now. I mean, they've been racing at Carrera Cup and GT level in Australia for probably 12 or 13 years now, at least since the inception of Carrera Cup racing in 2003. So very experienced driver, and Clark showed awesome pace over the Bathurst 12-hour weekend, dipping down into, I remember it clearly, dipping down into the 202s.
Yeah.
At the time, a lot of people said to me it must have been Craig Baird in the car, but it wasn't. It was Clark Quinn, and did a fantastic job there at Bathurst.
So the Taplin Lamborghini's on top now, 1 minute 21.7. So a second off Christian Klein's lap record, which he set here in an Erebus Mercedes in 2013.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb, sorry to interrupt you, and say it's Dean Canto. Seeing his helmet, I looked carefully, seeing his helmet in there, it looked like Dino. I might be wrong. Sorry if I'm wrong, Andrew.
He's got good left-hand dexterity, does Dino, in that car.
But he's doing a good job out in front, down into the 21s, which is not mucking around.
And this looks to be Matt Solomon, car 38, driving this as a solo entry. He's Hong Kong Australian, has recently moved to Sydney to study a major, or should I say he's doing a major actually, in economics at USIT. So he's moved into the very hipster-friendly suburb of Newtown.
Now, was that, you'll be able to tell me, is that Andrew McPherson's spare car, or is that another GT3?
Yeah, that is the spare car. So
great effort.
It's huge, isn't it? Oh, we've got yellow flags being waved in this part of the track. Someone's come a guts at turn 11, I'd hazard a guess.
There. Yep. Blind corner. Oh, it's Dean Canto facing the wrong way. Doesn't look like he's hit anything. Interesting spot to... No, he's not facing the wrong way. It looks like he's just stopped. His hand's out the window pointing to the sky again.
Yeah, with the index finger this time.
He was facing the wrong way, sorry. So good job there, Dino. Neat little spin turn.
Flick turn is on point. That was lovely.
Interesting. Good awareness there, because you actually have to turn the TC off, traction control off, to be able to do that in a GT car. And if you forget, you can look very amateur trying to do a spin turn. So good job there, Dino.
That's a good point.
And he's straight back into it, starting another lap now.
So he and Taplin drove together last year in an Aston Martin. They made it all of about half a lap before blowing the gearbox up. And they had electrical gremlins in the first practice session today, but it looks to be okay because they're on top from this guy. Actually, no, it's not this guy. He's been pushed down the order now. So Elliot Barber moves up to second. So Barber's name has popped up as the driver of car 61, which is the sister McLaren. Gee, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's a great job, Elliot Barber. Former V8 Ute driver, first year in the Australian GT Championship, so he's doing a good job of quickly acclimatising to the new machinery. A big step up from V8 Utes, I can tell you, about as big a step as you can make in Australian motor racing. Just a little bit more grip and a little bit more power than the V8 Ute. Peter Hackett up to third, also doing a good job in his first, his comeback really, you can call it. It's been quite a few years, probably. Be able to tell me 2012 or 2013, probably 2013 since he raced full-time last. So
well, he's been a driver instructor since then for AMG.
Yeah, well, he's run the AMG driving school, Mercedes-Benz driving school for a long time. But doing a good job getting back on the money there. His first weekend in the AMG GT3.
He took pole here in 2010, Peter Hackett, so he's got the runs on the board in the past as the Taplin Lambo comes back into the pits. And it's had a bit of a moment out there. It's had a spin and also set the fastest time in the session.
Yeah, but we can see they've all done 5 or 6 now, just completing their 5th lap now onto lap 6, and the times are just starting to come down for a lot of them. So these tyres, I mean, they're a tyre that can do 2 or 3 stints around Bathurst, so for sure they take a while to build up the temperature. In Europe, when they're running on a similar tyre, the teams use tyre warmers, or if not actual tyre warmers, a tyre warming tent. It's like a enclosed tyre tent with a gas heater in the side of it to warm the tyres up. So they're a tyre that's basically designed to be used in conjunction with tyre warmers. In Australia, it's prohibited in all classes. So you've got to allow them a good 5 or 6 laps to get up to temperature. We go Clark Quinn in the 37 car. And his McLaren currently sitting in P8.
That was late.
Very late on the brakes. These cars have all got ABS brakes, which on a track like this is amazing because on bumpy circuits like this, especially up to turn 4, where the car, like, there's Clark Quinn again. He's another amazing driver. So we've got a few timing issues, but Tony's obviously in the car there.
I was going to say, if Clark was in it, it'd probably be in P1 right now because he's very handy.
There's some superheroes out there today that can drive and stand in the car at the same time, but Tony out there doing a good job. Also, just as experienced, he's probably more experienced than Clark, and also a very competent driver in his own right. Very versatile. He also does a lot of tarmac rallies very competitively.
Nathan and Tunis sharing this car with Elliot Barber. And Dave's managed to get themselves up to P4 at the moment. The other McLaren has managed to go into P3, car 59, the one that won the 12-hour. The car that Jonathan Webb has got his hands on here this weekend.
You can see Elliot Barber's car squirming under brakes, and when the speed is high on that initial brake, these guys just monster that brake pedal so hard and take full advantage of the ABS brakes. The ABS and the software in these cars is so good these days that you can really use the ABS, and we'll hear them up here into turn 4. Sounds quite smooth. He sort of looks like he's slowed down, so it wasn't on the limit there, but if you're on the onboard with a car right on the limit there, you'll hear the rear wheels chattering over the bumps as the ABS is working and all 4 wheels are right on the limit. James Kandura is doing a great job in 2nd place as well. There's James driving with Marcus Marshall, I believe, so there's probably a possibility that it's Marcus in the car, seeing with having a few timing glitch dramas. But that's one of the brand new Audi R8 LMSs that the Kanduris brothers debuted at the Bathurst 12-hour.
This car is
another beautiful bit of machinery.
Yep.
I raced mine at Bathurst 12-hour, and along with the new Mercedes and most of these current GT cars, they're so nicely finished. So many beautiful little details in the cockpit. Honestly, it was one of the nicest race cars, and before you even drive it, one of the nicest race cars I've ever sat in. Little tricks like you press a button and all the pedals slide back to you, so you don't move your seat, you move your pedals. All sorts of little tricks in there.
Is that in the Audi?
Really nice. That's in the Audi R8, same as what Kanduris is driving there.
Yeah, right, because they've got the similar feature in this Mercedes that's on screen right now, where so you're not actually moving the whole seat, you're just having to worry about moving the pedal box. And say with the McLaren, so because Jonathan Webb and Grant Denyer are fairly different in size, they've had to put rails underneath the seat to be able to slide the seat back and forward. It adds a good 20 mil to the height of the seat, so Jonathan Webb's helmet is right up against the roof in that car at the moment.
So the cars come with the rails in them. I mean, it's got a more conventional, the McLaren has a more conventional style race seat, which is on normal seat runners, not dissimilar to what's in your road car. Really a much safer and stronger option is what Mercedes have in their AMG, which is a safety cell similar to what Erebus used in their V8 supercars. And the Audi has a similar system as well, where the seat is rigidly fixed, the safety cell is rigidly fixed to the chassis. Obviously can't move then, but much better for safety when the seat's bolted to the chassis like that.
So this is Eggleston Motorsport. So we've been used to seeing them run in, obviously, the Dunlop Series with great names like Paul Dumbrell winning the championship, but they have a pretty good past also running within the Australian GT Championship. Now they've really stepped it up in a big operation with the new AMG SLS. Gee, this is tight.
This is messy. So it's one of the Techno McLarens.
Oh,
working out who's in there at the moment. It's Nathan Morecambe in the car there at the moment. Those guys, it was an awkward situation, which probably could have been worse, but they all did a good job of keeping out of everyone's way there. Here we go, Dean Canto. Still at the top there. He's 1:21.7, which he did very early in the session. Still the fastest time. Duras down to a 22.2 currently in second. Canto, you can see he's really pushing that car hard. Very stiff cars, and to see them jumping over the curbs there at the first chicane is quite impressive. You can see they don't ride the curbs like a big soft V8 supercar does, that's for sure. But on these street circuits, you still have to drive the cars aggressively over the curbs. He's not going to be far. He's not going to better his lap on this run. Being held up behind the Audi.
Here comes Matt Solomon, former Euro F3 driver last year. But the amazing thing is, he's actually, despite the fact that he's racing European F3, isn't rated as a Pro 1, 2 or 3 driver. So you have Pro rankings and amateur rankings. Pro rankings are 1 to 6, amateur rankings are 1 to 6. So a Pro 1 driver like Stephen Richards is at the polar opposite end to an amateur 6 driver at the opposite end of the scale. If you're a Pro 1, 2 or 3, you can't drive by yourself. You have to have a co-driver. So for Matt Solomon, he just falls out of that Pro 1, 2 or 3 category. He's Pro 4. Therefore, he doesn't need a co-driver. And he will be very fast here this weekend. He has a little bit of GT experience. Actually ran for Erebus in China, sharing a car with Mika Hakkinen, and drove that car to victory. So he'll be one to watch out for this weekend. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure once he gets his eye in and gets used to the circuit, not an easy circuit to learn, we'll see him move forward in the races. But here we go. I was about to say it's Christopher Mees, but we know he's in the garage. So Jeff Emery getting up the inside of the Lamborghini there, and so that's Ricky Capo in the M4. F3 champ at the wheel here. Z4, I should say. Yanni King on the side. So this car actually crashed at Winton in testing recently. They've really had to work to get the spare parts to even get this car on the grid here this weekend. So huge effort by everyone at the Capo crew. And it would have been a big shame for them to miss out on the first round. Just doing a shakedown, testing the car at Winton, and they had a brake disc failure, which it's lucky they didn't have a bigger accident than they did. Brake disc failure means you're basically having a brake failure. The car's not going to stop, and they had quite a big accident. So great job to get that car repaired and in short time and on the grid here this weekend. What a beast, Tony Quinn in the Darrell Lee McLaren 650S. Still had the MP412C steering wheel in it. After the look at that shot inside the car. Yeah, I mean, they look like a Formula 1 car inside. I can't remember the exact details, but the steering wheel is based on one of the older Formula 1 cars, I believe. But it looks like something you'd expect to see in a Formula 1 car, not a big GT car. So interesting story behind car 63. You've got an experienced man in Peter Hackett, a two-time runner-up in the series, and also right up there in terms of career podiums in the category. But he's sharing the car with a bit of an unknown entity in Australian motorsport, a guy named Dom Story, who had raced recently in the Super Tourer Championship in New Zealand. He is a New Zealander, but pretty talented, working away at getting himself an endurance drive alongside hopefully Andre Heimgartner and Lucas Dumbrell Motorsport is part of the plan. He was at Winton for the test day, was going to drive the car, ran out of time and didn't actually get to drive for Lucas Dumbrell Motorsport there. So interesting to see what he can do. Again, he's only just rated in the pro ranks, so shorter pit stop time for them this weekend, and a very capable partner in Peter Hackett. So in the driver seating situation, not just in Australia, but in sort of GT racing around the world, is always going to be a little bit contentious. Oh, here we go. That's Dino having a little spin again. So he's shown to be extremely, they fixed his name up on the timing screen finally. So officially Dean Canto is first now, but he's shown to be real quick in this session, but had a couple of moments as well without any damage. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day, does it? As long as your name's up the top of the session, up the top of the timesheets by the end of the session, that's all that counts. But yeah, the driver seatings is always interesting because every now and again you get either a young guy who's really fast but hasn't yet achieved any big things in his career. They can slip under the radar and get a lower ranking, so it might be bronze or silver. That's what Nathan Antunes did last year and just demolished everyone here. Exactly, and obviously that only lasts so long if you do end up being successful, but it can prove to be a big advantage, and we saw it at the Bathurst 12 Hour as well. Guys who
for sure make a living out of motor racing in GT cars around the world are still rated silver, and it does prove to be a good advantage.
So there's 2 qualifying sessions for this category. The only class, or only sport category other than DBS that'll have a couple of qualifiers here this weekend. And the reason for that is to give all the drivers here a chance to qualify. So just the 1 practice session and then straight into their 2 qualifiers. The quick times will probably come in the later session, and Dean Canto's 1:21.7 will be the target to beat. Remember that late session today is 5:55 p.m. or something it starts, so it's going to be nice and cool as the checkered flag comes out.
Interesting thing we saw in that session is Dino did that time on about lap 4 or 5 very early in the session, but they've all continued circulating throughout that session, including Dino, but no one improved their time. Not many people improved their times as the session went on, so probably put a lot more laps on those tyres than he really needed to. He was still pushing very hard, trying to do a lap time at the end, but the session's finished now. A replay of Ricky Capo over the curbs at turn 1. Also a fantastic looking car, even though it's now superseded by the M6. It's Z4, very aggressive. Ooh, he's very sideways and hasn't quite got the correction on yet, but he's big black line left there and he's got it under control.
That's a wild moment to crack sideways in a high aero, stiffly sprung, slick tired car. And it wraps up like this. Andrew Taplin will be happy with Dean Canto's effort at 1:21.7. James Konduras sharing that car this weekend with Marcus Marshall in there at 2nd. And Tunis sharing his car with Elliot Barber. That's why they're up there at the moment. Jonathan Webb, I'd hazard a guess that was Grant Denyer in that car, driving his way into 4th. Largo Hackett, Jeff Emery driving for Christopher Mees. Look at the amazing talent in this field. Scott Taylor will hand that car over to Craig Baird for later today. All the way down to 26th, Brendan Gall in one of the older model Ferraris wraps up the field. So there's the car that is on top. Will these times stand? We'll find out later tonight when they go qualifying again, just before 6 p.m. local time. Thank you to Alex. Looking forward to seeing him back in the Porsche later. This is the Clipsal 500.